which is, hey, wait a minute. Am I taking both inputs, or a single input and splitting it? That was just a Ben mistake. So I'm going to clear the project here, and we're going to start from scratch. And again, my focus might be on my monitor rather than out on you guys. So I'm minding this. You raise your hand if you have a question. If that's the case, just shout it out. Okay. So don't be shy. And really, the goal here is to get you guys as educated as possible. So don't feel like there is a dumb question, right? And you prescribe to the philosophy that the only dumb question is the one that wasn't asked. Okay. So, multi-room homework here. We've got, let's see, how many rooms? I think 6 rooms. We've got a living room. And a kitchen. And a master bedroom. And a bathroom. Kids' room. And an equipment closet. Now, by the way, when you're designing your project, it doesn't matter which of these rooms you use. I mean, they're just there for convenience. The only thing that matters is the name of the room, because that's what's going to show up on your user interface. So technically, I could have added this room for every single room and just renamed it, or any of these rooms and renamed them. You'd have the exact same effect. It's the same thing for the sites, the buildings, the floors. It doesn't really matter which of those you use. It doesn't affect the way that the project works. The only thing that matters is the naming convention. I should say there's one slight caveat to that, and that is if you put multiple floors in a project, on the user interface it will segregate those rooms by the floors if you want to look at things like your lighting or your contacts and relays. But in my mind, sometimes it's just easier, rather than doing multiple floors, even if the house has it, to do it as a single floor. And you'll kind of find that as you go through and design your various projects.
Can you create names that stay in the items list, or do you have to modify every time?
You can't create any names right now that'll stay in the items list. That would be nice. I don't think there's been a lot of feedback on that one, but just make sure that I'm not. Sometimes what you can do, I don't know if we talked about this yesterday, but the My Drivers section is completely configurable by you. So unlike that locations area, I could go in and say, you know what, I happen to be using a particular DVD driver all the time. All you have to do at that point is say, well, if I want easy access to it, I can right-click here, add the driver, and then it will show up in the sub-menu of that My Drivers list.
Why would they list, do you have your panelized lighting and above it as lighting V2? Why wouldn't they just call wireless lighting for people who are new to it that wouldn't realize it otherwise?
You know, I guess they're having some separation there just so that those who have been dealing with the Control4's previous generation of lights, they have the separation. So these lights right here are our previous generation lighting, which obviously is different than our next generation lighting.
I was wondering why they just didn't call it wireless lighting instead of like V2.
Because these are wireless as well, right?
No, you see at the top, see it says light and light V2.
Oh, yeah, because this is our first generation lighting, this is our next generation lighting. I mean, that's the only thing I can think right there, but they're both wireless, right?
It's just that engineers think different than normal people, that's all.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, if you know you're not going to use them, remember that you can delete all of this.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Right? And then you never have to look at it again. It's still available in the search tab, but then you're not going to make any mistakes like, oh crap, I added the wrong type of dimmer, I can't get it identified. Okay. So let's go ahead and start adding hardware into the various rooms. Now, it mentions that there's speakers in the room that are connected to the receiver, but this isn't a device that we're going to add. This was sort of the hint that was there to help you determine what the audio endpoint for the room is supposed to be. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the connection section.
And
Yeah.
we've got two that will be coming over, and one I still can't find.
We don't know about Murray. Call up their inside salesperson, and then they might have a little bit more information there.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Murray just bailed, huh?
It's like he seemed like he was getting it, so. I've had people bail,
Really?
you know, like, they're like, this is too much for me. But I had one guy, this was interesting, happened this year. He was having such a rough go of it that he actually, like, took himself to the hospital because he was having panic attacks. Yeah. But they gave him meds, he came back and was able to pass the test.
He was chill.
Yeah.
He's in the rolling industry.
Wow, this is great. So, anyway. All right, so let's talk about adding hardware to the project. So we're adding an HC800 to the living room. And I'm of the opinion I like to rename my devices, partly because it affects the way the user interface looks, and we want to make sure that our customer understands what they're interacting with. But it's also for reasons like, let's say this HC800, if I added multiple ones in a project, how do I differentiate between the two? This makes it a little easier for me, so now I can say,
What kind of project would merit having multiple HC800s?
well, technically, the only thing I could think of that would, you want something like that, is if you were utilizing, let's say, either the control outputs or the multiple audio outputs that exist on it. Because generally speaking, I would say one HC800 and then two 50s as secondary controllers.
Right.
But you might find that scenario where you say, okay, you know, I've got a 32 zone system and I want to make sure that I can have various zones with independent digital audio, so I need to make sure I've got enough audio outputs to make that happen.
Gotcha.
And that would be a good solution. All right, so we've got that, and we've got our receiver that we need to add to the project. This is 5700, yes. By the way, I complained about how this doesn't expand, and that's going to be fixed in the next revision of software. So you guys can thank me for that. Drive me crazy. All right, so we've got that. We've got television. And sometimes you'll notice that devices will add additional pieces of hardware. This could be for one of two reasons. If it's like our receiver, it's what we call a multi-proxy device, meaning that the receiver is more than just the receiver, right? In this case, it not only is a receiver, but it's also got an integrated AM/FM tuner, it's got an integrated Sirius tuner, it's got features like the ability to connect to things like Pandora or Crackle or Netflix, things like that. And so it will add those in as if they are separate pieces of hardware so that they show up on your user interface as a separate piece of hardware. And the reason the software does that is it will say, okay, you just selected Netflix, that means I need to switch to this input so you can see that. And that's why it has to differentiate those. Other times it might add things in like you see the AM/FM radio or our cable TV or our digital media cloud. This is for the media section so that we can go in and create channel lists or in the case of digital media, scan in anything that might be connected to that controller. Generally though, I would say as a rule of thumb, don't delete the device if the software adds it. If you don't want it to show up on the user interface, remember that you have the ability to go to the room, to that navigator tab, and hide anything that you don't want to be displayed in that area. That's a better solution than deleting a device because If I were to say delete the digital media option here, now later on, if I wanted to, let's say, integrate an MP3 collection, I would have to take some additional steps to add that digital media back in and make the connection. So you're better served hiding than deleting. Okay. So satellite dish. Device that shouldn't be in bold, so let me make myself a little note here. So I have that at your workstation. Got a remote control. Next generation remote. An adaptive phase dimmer, which we're renaming to just living. Card access and motion sensor. And wireless music bridge. Let's have it finished. Okay. Questions so far? Feel good about that? Hopefully design isn't too difficult anymore. It's really, design is just a matter of finding what you're looking for in the most part. The software's gotten a lot easier since they've integrated this search feature, where it used to be you have to know what you were looking for, know the exact details, you'd have to go out to the online database to be able to work. So, I like this search feature. Okay. Kitchen, we're adding in the Infinity Edge touchscreen. Make sure that you added the Infinity Edge and not the pinwall. If you have problems ever identifying a device, typically it's because you've got the wrong piece of software matched up with the hardware. Sometimes that'll happen because people in class will end up using this pinwall instead of the Infinity Edge version of that touchscreen. Speaker points. Configurable keypad. Thermostat. So now the master bedroom. We've got a keypad in there. Is it a keypad dimmer? Is that right? Yep. We're going to talk a little bit about the keypad dimmer because that's a different kind of device. What else is in that master bedroom? We got a TV, right?
Fake
fake one, yeah. So, this kind of helps you remember that you don't need to identify this device, nor the SR250.